golf is a game of setbacks. What do you do mentally dealing with bad holes, bad shots, missed cuts with those challenges? How do you deal with that? What's the process?
Yeah, I've thought about this, and in the past, I haven't, I haven't dealt with this correctly. But I think I'm dealing with it a lot better now that I'm a little bit more mature. But the one thing that I do, if I have a bad round, bad hole, it's going to happen, right? Then
Yeah.
that sort of thing will happen.
Like life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the one thing that I do is I try and think back to a moment 2 or 3 years ago where the exact same thing happened. And you think back to that moment now, and you say to yourself, right, was that really as, because in the moment when something bad does happen, you think it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
On the golf course, you think it's the absolute end of the world. You think, it can't get any better from here. Like, what am I doing? You just feel terrible about yourself. But, if you take a moment and think about an experience that happened 2 or 3 years ago, a very, very similar experience, you're just like, right now, that really doesn't matter. And it's not as big as I thought it was back then. And it doesn't have as much, it didn't have any impact at all on how I played the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
It's just a setback. That's going to happen to every single athlete that ever exists. Everyone has setbacks. So thinking in that sort of way back to a period of time in which it's happened before, and knowing that it had no implications on what is, what I've become, is a nice kind of frame of mind to have when something bad does happen.
Yeah, it makes me think of that concept of cosmic irrelevance. Like if something really bad happens, and from an evolutionary perspective, our brains make this is really, really important right now, just in case we need to survive whatever happened. So our ego gets caught up in that. But if you think of like cosmic irrelevance, like how important will this be next week? How important was a similar event that happened last year, as you said? How important is this in the grand scheme of my family, society, the world? We're floating on this big ball in the universe. How important is this little? And it's you're not belittling what's happening with you, but it sort of brings it, right? It's not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things.
No.
It gives you that lens that's a little bit different.
Absolutely. And at the I think it's gratitude, right?
Yeah.
It's gratitude. It's knowing, that missing a putt or hitting a shot out of bounds or missing a cut in a golf tournament doesn't really matter.